It's cool to not care as a boy. You won't ask for help because you don't want to be seen as weak.
America's young men are falling behind at school, at work, and at home.
Society has these stigmas on the man.
It's the latest development in a seismic shift decades in the making.
We tore up the old script for women. We said, no, 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 the future's female. You go, girl. Future president. Women can be anything. Incredibly inspiring, empowering script that we put around girls and young women now. What's the new empowering, exciting, and inspiring script for men that we've replaced that old one with? We didn't replace it.
CBS Reports explores how boys and men are navigating a new reality.
The messages you get from the culture is that men should throw off anything that reeks of tradition and embrace anything that smells like modernity.
There's so many successful women who are well-educated, and they want a person who makes at least the same income as them or more.
Welcome, guys, to Access Vegas.
And the online ecosystem calling out to those left confused and struggling.
There are probably people who would look at your program and listen to your pod and then listen to this interview and say, this guy's full of shit.
I would feel bad if I didn't have 4,000 guys telling me that this worked.
There's like a lot of like these influencers now that try to tell kids nowadays to use steroids and stuff like that.
It's really appealing, especially to younger men who are like, well, I'm not sure what masculinity looks like. This guy has a roadmap and he's telling me what it is.
Bro, like 3 of my classes, all my electives I'm taking, they're like all underclassmen. And then all my other classes are just IB year 2s. So.
I have like a lot of electives. Like I'm doing like art, like I have weightlifting.
Santos Navarro and Ashton Stevens are seniors at Oberlin High School in Ohio, where they're both active in sports.
I'm just excited to get it done.
Yeah.
I want to move on. I want to be done.
Yeah.
Stevens is captain of the varsity soccer team, while Navarro plays linebacker on the football team. Navarro lives with his mother, Rosa, in an apartment near school. He's one of the roughly 20% of minors in the U.S. parented by a single mom. His parents divorced before he was a year old, and from the ages of 4 to 6, his father was in prison.
So I love wearing stuff like this. Like it's literally just like, it's just different, and nobody else is like really wearing stuff like this at school. Like it has like a whole bunch of rhinestones on it.
He says in middle school he dealt with a lot of anger issues, but now that he's nearing graduation and adulthood, he's been thinking a lot more about the kind of man he wants to be.
Every person is different, and like every young boy just like gets to decide what man they want to be. And I feel like the type of man that I would want to be is just definitely like dependable and open to the unknown.
Navarro's classmate Ashton Stevens is one of the nearly 70% of U.S. minors living in a 2-parent household. He's an Eagle Scout, skateboarder, and proud brother to 2 sisters.
I keep the boards around just because I like the vibe. Every time I get a board or break it, I'll just throw it on the wall.
Stevens says he's also spending more time these days thinking about his future.
The kind of man I want to be when I get older is a man who gives, a man who's willing to work hard. The word strength is a very broad word, and when you say, I am strong, yeah, that it face value, that means like, I'm strong. It could mean so much more. Mentally strong, like, I feel like there's a lot of levels to that one word.
Both Stevens and Navarro's mothers say they are immensely proud of their sons, but share similar concerns about the challenges confronting this generation of boys and men.
Society has these stigmas on a man and like the pressures of a man and what a man is.
Stevens' mom, Joanna, struggles with how to encourage her son to succeed, an issue she says she doesn't have with her daughters.
With girls, you need to make sure that they are, strong. It's easy to say, you need to be strong, you need to be independent, you need to, look after yourself and be in control. And with boys, you can't really say that because if you tell a boy you need to be in control, it just sounds wrong. And both boys and girls are important because I have a daughter who's an amazing kid, who's successful, who's strong, who's independent. And then I have a son who I also want the same for him.
Is there amongst young men a sense of confusion about what it means to be masculine today?
Yeah. I in some ways, the big question that young men are asking today is, how should I be a man? And that's because there isn't a clear script anymore for what that looks like.
Richard Reeves runs the American Institute for Boys and Men, a nonpartisan think tank focused on research and advocacy. Why the need? Why did you decide to start this?
It's a much more challenging time for young men to figure out their place in the world than it was. And then you add to that the fact that we have massive education gaps.
Boys are lagging behind girls in school, especially in reading, and they're less likely to go to college.
Today, it's women who are 15 percentage points more likely to get a degree than men.
We've flipped the gender gap, and actually women are a bit further ahead of men today on college campuses than men were in the early 70s, which is when we passed Title IX and had a really concerted push around kind of helping women. In the average school district, boys are about a grade level behind in English. So we see very, very big gaps in the education system and in mental health, and I think that then flows into employment, family life, and so on.
From 1970 to 2020, the percentage of men participating in America's labor force fell nearly 5%. During the same period, the percentage of men getting married also fell by twice as much.
Young men and boys are falling further and further behind. Many are disconnected, sort of disaffected, don't have a clear life path.
Delano Squires is a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation with a focus on family and education.
The second wave feminist movement was extremely successful at directing resources towards women and girls, whether that's in terms of education, in terms of the economy, in political representation.
Help me reconcile, because I think this is a point that many Americans would be confused by. The highest echelons of power, whether in the corporate world or in government, are largely held by men.
I think part of that is recognizing the generational divide. The crisis is generally speaking among younger men, right? So that's why we're talking about boys and men. The people in power obviously are older men, and eventually they're going to transition from those roles.
The median age of both Fortune 500 CEOs and members of the House of Representatives is about 57. While only 28% of the members of Congress are women, the number of women sworn into the most recent Congress represented a 44% increase compared to 10 years ago.
There are more Fortune 500 CEOs, I think, named like John, David, and Mike than there are female Fortune 500 CEOs, period. But the thing is, most men are not Fortune 500 CEOs. And these men who are succeeding extremely in their fields, they're doing great, but they don't necessarily represent all men, or even the majority of men.
Christine Emba is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and author of Rethinking Sex, a Provocation.
Pretty much since the founding of the United States, political thinkers and ideas people have been bemoaning the state of American men. First, it was that the frontier closed and American men didn't have anywhere else to explore. Then it was that the world wars had decimated men. Eventually that turned into sort of an obsession with how unfit physically men were getting. So this has always been sort of a question that's being asked of men. However, I do think that in this moment, men maybe are facing an identity crisis. One of the things that a lot of the young men I've talked to mention when I'm asking them about masculinity and manhood and where they get their ideas of how to be a man from is male role models.
Yes. Hey, I have a tie for you. All right.
Many will say, my dad wasn't in the house, or like I don't really have sort of older men around me who like taught me how to be a man.
I think boys in particular feel this emotional roller coaster, this push and pull of like, on the one hand, I'm hearing people think men should be able to cry, but I also don't feel I can express myself, don't have enough adult men in my life that actually model that for me. To describe a physical sensation in or on your body, so something that you can feel, and then you're going to describe an emotional feeling. We don't give teenage boys enough credit for how emotional they are. When you create a space or an environment where it's acceptable and encouraged to do this, it's beautiful what happens naturally.
Classic 5 Friday.
Drew.
Young men in men's work project, please report to the library. Thank you.
Aaron, take one big deep breath in through the nose. Inside out. We're gonna do one more big deep breath in through the nose, and this time we're gonna bring our hands above our head. Inside out, drop your hands.
David Reese is a language arts teacher at Oberlin High School in Ohio. Johnny Cole is Reese's former student and founder of Hey Brother, an organization that seeks to challenge and examine what it means to be a modern man. Every other week during the school year, Cole and Reese lead a group of over a dozen high school boys in lessons and discussions focused on the role of men in today's world, a program they call Men's Work.
So here's a question. When in your life was there a time when you wanted to cry, you felt it, you wanted to cry, but you kind of like stuffed that down and would not allow yourself? Jaden?
When my dog died, I feel that was just a big part of my life, and for him to be taken just in an instant, it was kind of sad.
Who here has lost a pet? All right. Who here wanted to cry and did cry when you lost your pet?
Why do you think there's a hunger for this now?
I believe that there always has been, but it is more present and potent because we have a cultural dialogue around men being expressive and the expectation that men should be going to therapy, and women wished that they could find men who were more expressive. I mean, I met David when I was 13 years old, and at the time, I was incredibly emotionally suppressed and struggling a lot at home because I grew up in an abusive environment. And so I developed a bit of a mistrust for opening up to older men, and that didn't stop me from admiring David. And as you see from his interactions at school, he's such a wonderful presence and such an incredible role model.
On the subject of positive role models and whatnot, this obviously has to start very early in life.
Yeah.
Where are men, or are men, in the classroom?
We've seen a massive decline in the share of male teachers. So we have fewer men in our classrooms now than we do women in STEM professions, or women in law, or women in medicine, etc. And we actually need to go a bit further in some areas. Meanwhile, a decline in the share of men in professions like teaching. And what that means is that there is just this dearth of men standing in front of these kids.
In the 1980s, 1 of 3 K-12 teachers were men. Today, it's just 1 in 4. And there have been many headlines in recent years highlighting how boys are falling behind in school.
In the classroom, have you seen boys struggle when it comes to achievement, when it comes to participation?
Yes, yeah. Handing in assignments. Like, all my girls are handing in the assignment, and if I've got like 8 boys in the class, maybe 1 or 2 did.
Educators see boys lagging behind from elementary school through graduation. Prior to middle school, boys are more likely to repeat a grade than girls. And in high school, girls have consistently earned higher GPAs than boys.
For years, people have been saying that the K-12 education system is not set up for boys, requiring them to sit still for, hours on end, labeling any boy who's a little bit, more rambunctious as having, ADHD or some other social issue.
It's cool to not care as a boy. It's cool to be nonchalant. You're struggling in a math class and you won't ask for help because you don't want to be seen as weak, whereas girls are not socialized to believe it is weak for them to ask for help.
Today I'm feeling very excited because we have a home football game today, and I'm super happy and excited.
Okay, and where do you feel that in your body? Like,
I feel that like in my chest, like my arms.
That's
like
it.
my upper body.
That's it. Beautiful. Yeah.
In the 2010s, I think we sort of reached this, I think rather unfortunate, frankly, high water of sort of almost jokey, feminist, progressive movement misandry. We talked about girl bosses and the future being female. And then, of course, the flip side of that was it being okay to be like, men are trash. We don't need men anymore. And I think that also left a lot of men thinking, well, okay, if being a man is bad, if masculinity is toxic, what am I supposed to do?
Given where we are, where we have a certain portion of the male population kind of uncertain about where their place is in society, you might say that they're vulnerable to manipulation. They go online. There's a whole host of people who are kind of waiting with, open arm to grab audience.
And with ready answers. It's not entirely irrational for some boys and young men to feel like their problems, their struggles are not treated with the same level of seriousness and empathy as the struggles of others. And as long as that remains the case, we have left a gap. We have left a psychological vulnerability among those boys and young men to the claim from someone who comes along and says, I get it, you're struggling. True. Do you know why? They don't care about you. The society, the school, they don't care about you. I care about you, and I have the solution to your problems.
I think that marriage is one of the tools that the Western world uses to enslave men.
Women have become delusional, and men are completely disenfranchised.
The majority of women definitely, I don't think, should be able to vote.
In recent years, an ecosystem of content has exploded online and on social media, targeting men of all ages, including teen boys. It's become known as the manosphere. There are thousands of content creators in the manosphere, but one of the most popular, well known for his extreme and misogynistic rhetoric, is former kickboxer Andrew Tate.
The online world is buzzing this morning about a sudden move by Andrew Tate. That hugely popular personality is known for telling his audience that men should dominate the world the way they used to.
Well, it's been proven that the smartest people in the world are men.
So the manosphere used to be a collection of predominantly online websites and blogs that all shared a belief men were the oppressed group in society and women were doing the oppression.
Mariel Barnes is an associate professor of public affairs with a focus on gender and has done extensive research on the manosphere and the ideology of so-called red pill content.
The idea of red pill comes from the Matrix. Neo is offered a red pill and a blue pill. If he takes the red pill, he wakes up and he sees the truth about the society he lives in. With the manosphere, when they say they're red-pilled, what they mean is they have taken the red pill, similarly to Neo, and they've realized that actually everything they've learned about society before is incorrect. There is no patriarchy, there is no misogyny. In reality, it's women who are in charge and women who are oppressing men and men who are suffering in modern society.
Men and boys hear these messages that sometimes their very presence, their very being is a problem. It's problematized, particularly on the progressive left. What you see in some respects, particularly online, the rise of sort of the red pill communities. And so if the people over here say your maleness is a problem, the ones over here say, no, it's good to be a man and you should say that with your head held high, your chest stuck out.
The idea that these places actually target men and say they're for men and also sort of define masculinity in a clear way is really appealing, especially to younger men who are like, well, I'm not sure what masculinity looks like or what it is, but like this guy has a roadmap and he's telling me what it is.
I think the growth of social media and podcasting has made manosphere content much more accessible. Before, you had to go look for it, right? You had to find a blog that you liked and you had to read it and you had to engage with it, write a comment on a blog. Whereas now, you can just be on social media and an algorithm will pop something up, right?
In a study of TikTok accounts mirroring adolescent boys, each account started off with 13 targeted videos out of 100 that contained misogynistic content. 5 days later, that number jumped to 56. And in less than a week, teen boys were 4 times more likely to encounter sexist content, not by searching, but by algorithms. TikTok did not respond to requests for comment.
Do you follow anyone who might fall into like the manosphere camp?
Yeah, because I like to work out a lot, and I feel like there's like a lot of like these influencers now that try to like tell kids nowadays to use steroids and stuff like that, and it just like, I feel like so many kids nowadays are like starting to actually think that this stuff is like cool. Kids at younger ages are starting to like think it's okay.
Do you ever come across or do you follow any influencers who, try to tell young men about how to act around women, how to treat women?
I think I do follow like this one dude, and like A couple of like other like big like fitness influencers.
What do they say about women? And
like they just like call them like slut and like hoes and stuff like that. I just feel like that's just like it's almost like just objectifying them and just like putting that on all women. And I feel like when you put that on all women, like it's just disrespectful.
So watching these fitness influencers, do you ever come away feeling like, I want to be a man, I gotta get, I've got to bench a certain amount, I gotta get jacked?
Yeah, just feeling like I need to be bigger, like just feeling like I need to be doing more, or whenever I am in the gym, kind of just like in my head, I guess.
A 2025 University of Toronto study of 1,553 boys and men found that those who often saw muscular bodies, supplements, or drug content on social media were more likely to show signs of muscle dysmorphia, a condition affecting about 1 in 3 participants.
That gets to the question of, are some of these spaces exploitative? And I would say some of them definitely are. I think there are a lot of men who feel kind of troubled or unsure of their identity and are looking for answers. And there are a lot of people willing to sell them an answer that looks like, buy my product, keep subscribing to my podcast. I will tell you just how horrible it is to be you, how badly you're doing, and I will sell you something that will like sort of make it better, but still make you anxious.
If you're a young man, especially if you haven't maybe had particularly strong male role models in your life, and it's very interesting that those young men who are most attracted to the misogynist manosphere, let's call it that, right, the Andrew Tate type figures, they are the ones who are kind of most hungry. That those are the ones who have a vacuum of one kind or another. So the question is like, well, how did that vacuum get created? How do we answer the question, how to be a man, in the boy's actual life or the young man's actual life, so that they don't have to look for it online?
The worst of it, I would say, are male content creators who are selling men a vision of manhood that's all about, making a lot of money, owning, a fast car. But the one thing that they don't talk about is the importance of family. Why would a man sign up to get married today when he knows that, given sort of the social status of women today, that your wife could leave you at the drop of a dime and take half of what you own? So particularly to these guys, marriage is a bad deal, and it's one that the modern man should not sign up for.
So how important is sports in finding a partner?
A lot of people on the first date, they'll go, oh, so you golf. Am I gonna be a single mom while you're golfing the whole time?
Michael, who asked his last name be withheld for privacy, is in his late 30s and looking for love. A co-owner of a small business, he's one of the growing number of men over 35 that's never been married.
There are times she's probably going to want to get rid of you.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah.
Everyone I've talked to at the club who's older is always like, and if they're terrible at golf, their wife made them pick it up, so they're not at the house.
He says he's been in several long-term relationships, but hasn't yet found the one.
You've been in relationships.
I was single for pretty much all my 20s. I didn't want to be. I wanted to be in a relationship, but it was like one of those things where I hadn't found myself yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trying to figure that stuff out.
That's what your 20s are for.
Exactly. And then my 30s, the majority of my 30s I've been in relationships, right? There was one person I dated for about 3 years that was just a phenomenal person. I still think the world of her. Unfortunately, we kind of got to a place where we're like, oh, God, everything's great. We should be running to go get married, but we're not.
Michael's story is becoming more common by the decade. In 1949, more than 75% of U.S. households were headed by married couples. As of 2024, that number has plummeted to just 47%.
Do you think it's becoming harder to date?
It's just different. I look at my grandparents, my grandfather was a blind date with my grandma in a rowboat on Coney Island. He said, I'm gonna marry you, and she thought he was crazy, and it took him 7 dates to kiss her. It's both easier and more difficult, I'd say, because you can find what you're looking for easier today. I mean, you have an app and you have access to everyone who's single in the area. It's like a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Like there's always something better around the corner, right? And I think a lot of people lose focus of the, can I be in the here and now with the person?
What do you feel the role of a man in a relationship should be?
That's a loaded question.
What do you feel you should bring to a relationship?
Look, I think that's contingent on what the two individuals think, feel, and believe, and then how they come together. I think a very good quote, and I'm going to botch it, relationships, they're not 50-50. They're 80-20. They're 60-40. You know, like and you trade off. I think it's a dance, you know, what the roles are. There's the question of, you know, how you show up, what you should do, what you shouldn't do.
I don't have many men around me. However, I am very lucky to be part of a women's community that has really opened my eyes to seeing the challenges that men face in our country right now.
Natalie Kramer is the founder of Single Saturdays, and once a month hosts meetups like this to bring men and women together in New York City.
I think one of the biggest challenges facing men and women is the differences in connection to our masculine and feminine energy. Yes, we have both of them inside each of one of us. Most females are more connected with their feminine at their core. And what we're seeing in modern times is because of the Me Too movement, because of how the media shows men, there are a lot of good men that have become fearful, and they have taken a step back.
To go to like bars or restaurants or museums or whatever to meet women, they don't have the opportunity because they don't want to go out alone.
Nick Rosen is the co-host of today's meetup and is a professional matchmaker with clients in New York City and across the country.
It's a sensitive time when it comes to guys being misunderstood when they come up. Like, they're worried about if they're being misunderstood, if they're coming off as creepy, if they're coming off as weird.
A 2020 survey by Pew Research found that roughly half of men surveyed said a key reason they struggled to get a date in the past 12 months was the difficulty of approaching women. A significant share of single men rely on dating apps to meet women instead, but one report found that the match rate for the average man on Tinder was under 3%, compared to nearly 31% for the average woman.
Do you get guys who say that perhaps, you know, they've not had luck because they're not good looking enough, or they're not tall enough, they're not, you know, they're not as fit as perhaps the women want them to be?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the height part of it, for sure. There's a lot of women I do interview that at a minimum, they're like 5'10", you know, and that's like a really like strong minimum for them. There is that height thing. So I do think that that's not a misnomer, it's actually reality.
I'm sure you have male clients who are insecure about whether they make enough money to attract someone of the opposite sex.
There's so many successful women who are well educated, and these are actually clients of mine, like female clients of mine who are so well educated and have amazing careers and all these things. But I think a big thing is to have a person, they want a person who makes at least the same income as them or more.
The percentage of women earning more than men in a marriage has risen dramatically. In 1972, women were the primary breadwinners in just 5% of households. As of 2022, it's more than tripled to 16%.
The really good thing about the old male role model of breadwinner, worker, husband, father, breadwinner, etc., was it was really clear and really simple. The trouble with it was deeply unfair, especially to women. So we quite rightly have changed that. But as a result of, in a sense, just unbundling what it used to mean to be a man, we've created this huge confusion. And one of the things we've done is that we've reduced, I think, the incentive for men to feel like they should be in the labor force and they should be working. It's why I think women still say that they care about men's earning potential when they think about a partner. It's not because they want a man who can just let them stay home. They're not looking for an old-style breadwinner. They are looking for a man who has his act together, who is skilled, who is equipped, and who will be with them.
What are some of the qualities that are important to you?
So what's important to me with the person is at the core of who they are. You know, like I want someone who's driven but not blinded by their drive. You know, so someone who's motivated, who wants to do something. I want someone who says yes to fun opportunities, like, you know, hey, I saw this thing on Instagram. This is a really cool waterfall in upstate. You know, I wanna go check it out. It's like, absolutely, I'll get the snacks, right? Or I've already got a playlist for this. Great idea. You know, like, to actively go do that stuff.
The challenging part is that, at least from my experience, most women still do want a guy who sees it as his role to provide for his family. And this is the tension, is that people say, we don't want men to think of themselves this way, even while expecting men to fulfill these traditional roles. Because the fully modern man who says, you know what, I'm looking for a breadwinner wife. When you get 15 inches of snow in the winter, I can sip my hot cocoa while watching her in the window as she shovels our cars out. I don't know many women who want that kind of guy. But the messages you get from the culture is that men should sort of throw off anything that reeks of tradition and embrace anything that smells like modernity.
You know, masculinity is defined by certain things. One of them is being the provider.
You know, then it's like a more thing of like, well, I want to be like really, I want to be this effective leader at work, that when I'm at home, I want to be treated in a more like typical, like more masculine, feminine type of traditional roles type thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want a guy who's going to be dominant in maybe in the bedroom and certain things like that.
But adds to the confusion for the men and the women in some cases. And
oh yeah, oh it's so confusing. It's really confusing.
If you talk to women, especially actually, who are dating in this moment, you hear a lot of them talking about like meeting this kind of guy who professes to be a ladies' man or says that they want a relationship, but like calls women females and talks about how all they want is dinner paid for, which is really off-putting. You have these guys who, you know, tell young men that women are out to get you, women are gold diggers and only want one certain kind of guy, and you're never gonna get a girlfriend and you shouldn't even try, except keep subscribing to this podcast and I'll tell you how to beat the odds, or how you can trick women into liking you, or, you know, the products that you can buy and like the posture that you need to have to get women.
You see how my palm doesn't touch the ball? And I lift it and put it over the rim. Okay, guys, so we're gonna start off with knockout and then we're gonna stretch, all right? If you have not played knockout before, get in the back of the line.
Michael Sartain is a coach, but he's not a basketball coach.
I need this motion, and you're doing this motion.
He's coaching these men on how to date and attract women.
We walk like athletes, does everybody understand? And if you didn't walk like athletes, no more of this.
47-year-old Sartain is an Air Force veteran and host of the Michael Sartain podcast.
You're from Texas?
Big smile. Yeah, from East Dallas.
Oh, I love me a Southern man.
Yeah.
Host of the YouTube show Access Vegas.
And welcome, guys, to Access Vegas. You guessed it, we're gonna have a great time tonight.
Where he talks culture and dating with female influencers and models. He's also founder and CEO of Men of Action, a program that focuses on leadership, communication, networking, and dating.
It's becoming harder and harder to meet high-quality women these days. Dating apps are completely rigged against the average man, women are more resistant to cold approach than ever, and modern women have unrealistic expectations of what they want in a man.
Tell me, why do people come to you?
They'll see on my social media that I host these incredible events where there's a lot of really attractive women there. And we don't use money, and there's no drugs, and there's no alcohol. I just saw that in the dating space and in just men in general, there was a falling behind, largely due to social media, causing men to lose the ability to act in real life. Most of the marketing is about dating. I sell them what they want and teach them what they need. Once they get in the course, they come to find out it's a U.S. military officer training course. That's kind of what I put them through.
Over 4,000 men have signed up, ranging from a 53-year-old grandfather to young professionals, blue and white collar workers, who have all paid anywhere from $27 to $6,000 for coaching services. One program includes an in-person Las Vegas immersion experience with face-to-face interaction with Mike, photo shoots, events at clubs, and dinners.
Confidence means nothing. Don't worry about that. Just do the thing first. That's why it's called Men of Action.
We were allowed to film one afternoon of the Las Vegas immersion. We were asked to blur all the attendees' faces, but one client of Sartain's program agreed to speak with us.
I've talked to some of the most attractive women I've ever talked to. I've learned a lot of techniques on what I'm going to have to do to develop this life that I dream about.
Maziar Montferred is a 33-year-old professional poker player from Wichita, Kansas. He's a month into Sartain's program and used different online dating coaches before Men of Action.
Pickup guys, they'll go into interactions with women and they'll say, oh, she's not gonna sleep with me, screw her, I'm gonna go to the next person. Michael's like, no, you build connections with these women, you make them your friends, and in the long term, that's gonna provide massive amounts of value to your life.
The thing I see most common is highly intellectual guys who don't know how to communicate with the opposite sex.
To help his clients engage with the opposite sex, while in Vegas, they must approach 50 women every night.
Who here was able to finish 50 approaches in a night? You guys were? Who here, at what approach did you just not care anymore? Was it 12? Was it all 50 you cared? About 10 you didn't care anymore?
You know what happens? They get to 12, they get into an awesome conversation with somebody who like lives in a place they used to live, and they spend the whole night talking to this person that they just met. But shh, don't tell them that. But yeah, they never get to 50, man. They just get over their approach anxiety.
There are probably people who would look at your program and listen to your pod and then listen to this interview and say, this guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
You know, you're capitalizing on the fears and the vulnerabilities of men who are really struggling here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, and I would feel bad if I didn't have 4,000 guys telling me that this worked, that this changed their life. If I didn't go to weddings for my clients, then I would agree with you.
Do you think that men are consuming content online that could be harmful to them?
Yes, they are. I absolutely believe they are. Part of that has to do with the fact that if I'm a content creator and I make content like I do, which is about solutions, it doesn't do very well on YouTube. And so a lot of these content creators, they're rewarded with more views for saying outlandish, bombastic, ostentatious things, and the algorithm keeps rewarding them.
The definition that you ascribe to manosphere, you would be part of that manosphere.
Yes, for sure. There's good parts and bad parts. If you take the worst ideas from manosphere content, it sounds horrible, and I don't stand by it. That's why I don't consider myself red pill. I'm red pill adjacent.
Sartain met Andrew Tate at an event in 2025 and says while he wouldn't use Tate's communication style with his audience, he strives for an open dialogue with content creators across the spectrum.
It is problematic. When I hear manosphere, when I hear the term manosphere, I just think a collection of men, and I know Richard Reeves wouldn't agree with this, but Richard Reeves I would put in the manosphere because he's having a conversation about men and women and why they're falling behind. He's not gonna identify himself that way, but that's what manosphere means.
There's only a dark side to the manosphere, right? There isn't a sunlit, amazing manosphere. No one ever talks about it as a great and empowering thing. But actually, even when you do use the term in the way that you've just defined it, which is this space that's about masculine content, it's geared towards men, it's provided for by men. Joe Rogan's the biggest platform in the world. Most of Rogan's content is not about masculinity at all. It's about whatever. Andrew Tate has made his name and his reputation, not least by specifically leaning into misogynist content, and does have very prescriptive ideas about what masculinity should look like, which are hateful. But I think it's a bit like the term toxic masculinity. Is if you start using these terms to lump people together in a way that it just captures such a broad spectrum, this lumping together of different kinds of content, this pathologization of any young man who is just honestly searching for an answer, it backfires.
What ends up happening is that the circle of what is red pill and dangerous just grows larger and larger and larger. I've heard people put Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson in the same category. So if you're a guy and says, you know, I like to lift weights, I like to eat red meat, all right, I like to shoot guns, what you end up doing ultimately is driving young men further and further away and into the arms of exactly the types of people you want to keep them away from.
I actually think that we have a cohort of young men who feel, to some extent fairly, that they have grown up in a world that has offered them a lot more wagging fingers than it has helping hands. It's why I struggle with some of these terms, like toxic masculinity. It says, we've figured out what's wrong with you and we're gonna fix you rather than fix the structures and systems that serve you.
It does frustrate me a lot because I've seen it through Ashton, how it's so hard to tell a boy, like, no, you do matter, you do count, you do need to be strong. And I'm like, no, boys rule too. Like, we all rule, we all are equally important.
Right now, frankly, we have a media that deals in sound bites and short conversations, and it's easier to clump everyone together and just be like, men, all men are struggling. Women, all women are succeeding, even though there are lots of gradations in there. I think, unfortunately, when we're looking for solutions to problems with male identity or how sort of young men figure out how to be, the difficulty in solving that issue is that it's not really a top-down solution. I think there's already been more discussion about getting male teachers back into schools and sort of creating more third and social spaces. But I think a lot of the solution will have to be one-on-one. People in their communities, especially sort of parents and older men, looking around and looking and seeing younger guys who need help and actually stepping up and talking to them. That's something we can't mandate.
You know, you call this a crisis. This is something that it's been in the making for decades. How do we course correct, if you?
So the first thing we should do is stop doing the bad things. Stop making masculinity look like something that's inherently negative. Stop publishing op-eds from mothers who bemoan having a son, who think about all of the harm that their son is going to cause, you know, when they get 18. And then give them examples of what it means to be a man, positive examples.
Do you want some yogurt?
No, I'll probably have some yogurt probably after. Yeah, me and my mom's relationship has definitely grown a whole lot.
Yeah, like, how so?
I feel like now, like whenever I get home, I feel like we both work a lot, and like at the end of the day, we kind of get to have dinner together, and we kind of get to debrief and talk about our day. And I'm happy that I get to have that closeness with my mom. I want to like tell her about my day. I want to hear about her day.
And I'm like so thankful to be his mom. It's so proud, even in this moment, and hearing you speak. And I really want you to go out into the world and experience it and have the love and the joy that I know you can. Like, I know you're gonna do well.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.